Hello folks, welcome to OTD. My name is Adam Orduna. This is my mom Gina. As you can see, we are truly out on the deck today, and it is snowing and it's very cold, but we want to continue to do our show because it's OTD, and we've got some great topics as well, and we're going to be talking about actually the college football final, or the wrap-up that just took place last week or the week before, and we just want to go ahead and talk about our own predictions and kind of some of the things that took place over those football games. And the first one was the Orange Bowl, which was the Clemson Tigers and the Oklahoma Sooners. We both chose Oklahoma to win that game and essentially play in the national championship game. But we were completely wrong on that game. And not only were we wrong, it was not a good game at all. And so clearly Clemson...
Well, it's a good game if you're a Clemson fan.
Well, yeah, you know, Clemson knew something that we didn't know, and quite frankly, I don't think we were that far off as far as giving both teams love. But
listen, it takes a big woman to admit when you're wrong. I was wrong.
It was
a big woman.
It was a bad prediction as far as the outcome, and so the initial thoughts from that game, just from my standpoint, I just think that the Oklahoma Sooners just really just didn't come out to play as well as the Clemson Tigers did. I think Clemson wanted a little bit more. I think they were just a little bit more prepared, and I just think Oklahoma just really didn't quite live up to what they were supposed to in that matchup, and essentially Clemson just did a little bit more to win that game, and they initially took over and then put themselves in position to win the game and essentially played in the national championship.
Well, they did, and I look back at some of our predictions. Baker Mayfield, I still stand by that. I love Bob Stoops. He's getting a lot of heat about, he can't win the big ones. I think people's memories are way too short. That being said, you can't take anything away from Clemson. I honestly had watched them play, and what swayed me was watching them play North Carolina. And North Carolina gave them everything. I mean, they gave them 2-3 handfuls, and Clemson had to literally pull that one out in the end. So I'm looking at, is North Carolina as good a team as Oklahoma? Well, now, in hindsight, maybe. I didn't feel like they were, and I felt like if North Carolina gave Clemson all they could handle, Oklahoma would, finish them off. But that is not what happened, and Clemson is clearly a much better team than I predicted, and they put on a show, and they deserved that Orange Bowl win. On the other side of that draw, it was...
we're going to talk... Yeah, going into the Cotton Bowl, we had Alabama and Michigan State. Now, we both were correct as far as that outcome goes. My mom here was a lot more confident with her pick, and she was completely correct. Yeah, Alabama win, and what is your antics that you always do when
I
it
said
comes to
get
Alabama?
used to this sound because you were going to go out to the woodshed.
And that's that woodshed. That's that woodshed. Yes, and Alabama completely took over that game from start to finish. It really wasn't a close one, and the end result was a rout by Alabama against Michigan State.
You see what that is? That's a 0.
I was wrong as far as just thinking that Michigan State was going to give them more of a game, which, traditionally they should have. In hindsight, on paper you would think that, they would have. But when it came to those, the game playing between those white lines, Alabama was just a much better team.
Clearly the superior team.
Yeah, they just ended up taking over, and it was a rout. And
And one of the things that we said in our prediction was that, maybe Michigan State wasn't the right team from the Big Ten to take on Alabama. I definitely don't think Iowa would have fared any better.
Absolutely not.
But, I still stand by the fact that I think Ohio State, I don't know that anybody would have beaten Alabama, but I think Ohio State wouldn't have gotten shut out. That's embarrassing. When someone shuts you down, you can't even put 3 points up. You got kickers who can kick 50 yards. You couldn't get close enough for somebody to kick 3 points on the board for you. It was a beatdown. So, just like I had to admit I was wrong about Oklahoma, I'll take the big on being right about that Alabama game. And it was painful to watch. It got ugly.
Yeah, the Big Ten did not fare out that well as far as the bigger bowl games go, at least for the New Year's games, with Iowa getting destroyed by Stanford and Michigan State putting up the performance that they did against Alabama. It just wasn't what people were truly expecting, and I guess maybe some people did expect that. As you can see, my mom thought that as well, and so
you thought that too. Give yourself.
Well, I thought that Alabama was going to win, but I just didn't think it was going to be quite like that, and so and therefore, it just proved that Alabama this year was really just the best team. And so I guess we go into the national championship game where we both had Oklahoma in that game, and just from previous history, Oklahoma and Alabama, Oklahoma has won against Alabama, and Alabama tends to struggle with scrambling quarterbacks, and so with the Baker Mayfield, just the setup was for Oklahoma to potentially win that game, but Clemson had a lot to say about that, and as last year showed in the Russell Athletic Bowl, they said, no, we still remember last year's game, and we won that game, and so Clemson right now is 2-0 in postseason play against OU, and Oklahoma got beat, and so Clemson played in the national championship, and Alabama also played in the national championship, and that was a very, very, very good game for the fans to watch at home.
Well, you got to say this for Alabama. They believed they were the best team in the country. They had their loss early to Ole Miss. That's an anomaly. I think Ole Miss just has their number. But the rest of the season, Alabama said, we are the best team in the country, and they proved it. Because Clemson, let me tell you something, that is a heck of a team.
It is a heck of a team. They're well coached. They've got athletes all over the field.
All over, both sides of the ball.
Yeah, they really showed and proved to everyone in the country that they deserve to be in the national championship. So to kind of go along with Alabama, everyone's been talking about Nick Saban and, what a great job he's done over these past few years. Do you consider him to be the greatest college football coach of all time?
I always have an issue with of all time. We talked at one point about LeBron James getting a lifetime. You say time, all-time, lifetime. I think it's a hard apples to watermelon comparison. The game is so different now. Social media, the speed of the game. It just, because you compare like a Nick Saban to a Bear Bryant. Right. It's just a whole different world right now. When Bear Bryant was coaching, there were places where black people couldn't be out after dark.
Right.
Right. Nick Saban's coaching an era where our president is black. So it's,
right.
I know that's an extreme, but it's just not the same game.
But you bring up a great point, and I think you just have to think about eras, because I think Bear Bryant is probably considered to be the greatest of all time, but like you said, in that time frame, the country was different.
Right.
I think there was a time where people were considering Pete Carroll as the best coach of all time.
Right.
In the 90s, people were considering Tom Osborne as the greatest coach of all time.
You've got your eras where it's Lou Holtz.
Yeah, you had Lou Holtz, and you've had Barry Switzer.
You got Bowden.
And even
they're great
the late
coaches.
Joe Paterno as well. So there's a lot of coaches that you could very easily say that fit into that slot. And I just think because it's recent memory and the way he's doing it, and he's in the SEC at Alabama and getting these big-time recruits, it kind of clouds people's memory of all the other great coaches that are out there.
Yeah, so I'm not going to give the all-time, but that's a personal preference. I don't believe in slapping all-time, lifetime on people. Now, is he the best coach in college football today? Hands down, without a doubt, absolutely yes. And I don't think there are some seconds, but I don't think there's a close second. When you talk about the dominance, his ability to recruit, we've seen some antics from some coaches lately. I happen to be a Jim Harbaugh fan. People are giving a little heat and hate for how he's recruiting. But you know what? If you're competing with a guy like Nick Saban, you got to do what you got to do.
You got to pull out all the stops and try to compete with a guy like that. And yeah, Nick Saban right now, to me, I think clearly right now he's the best. He's number one. He's got the national championships. He's got the All-Americans. He's got the NFL talent. The way he's running his program, the way he defends his players, the way he handles his business. Right now, I just think there isn't anyone else right now that can top what he's doing.
Well, you think about that Roll Tide program. Alabama last year, there were 4 teams in the Final Four last year, and Alabama was one of those 4 teams. Yes. The only repeating team back in the Final Four this year was Alabama.
Right.
So, you just got to give it to Nick Saban. So, yeah, I think he's absolutely the best coach right now in college football.
Well, I guess to kind of conclude our predictions or our wrap-ups, we were wrong about the Orange Bowl as far as the victor, but I think it just proves that Deshaun Watson, who I had as my initial Heisman pick, continued to just prove people wrong and show how great of an athlete he is. Alabama continued to prove that, hey, they're the best team in the country. They've got the great athletes. They've got a Heisman Trophy winner within Derrick Henry. They've got an amazing coach, and they've got a fan base that supports their program. And right now, it was great to see those two teams battle it out. 45-40 was the final score for Alabama, and it was just a great game to watch. And I was proud for what they did.
I was proud for what they did too. You keep doing your thing, Clemson, but Roll Tide.
Yeah, Roll Tide, and we just hope that there's more teams that can continue to reach the same level of success as Clemson and Alabama. Well, that's it from the deck. It's very cold, very chilly, very snowy. And we're going to continue to talk about sports and all the other things that we have going on here. Thanks for watching, folks. All right. All right.
All right. I like when you say all right and get up.